Well, hello, and welcome back to another great intro as always, right? If you're new here, what I do is I watch a movie, sit down, and I talk about it spur of the moment, off the top of my head, no script whatsoever. One take, for better or for worse. I just realized I put my camera the opposite way so that the thing that I should look in is on this side instead of this side. So it's going to look like I'm looking here for a lot of the videos. That's going to be fun. This is the professionalism we strive for here. Anyway, what did I watch today? I watched 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Very exciting, right? Well, yes, it was. So, spoiler alert, you know the drill. Again, it's going to be weird because I'm going to be looking over here the whole time, but whatever. Sorry. Too late now because I do the one take and that's it. Anyway, spoiler alert, you know the drill. Talking about spoilers, so there you go. You've been warned. So, where does this take place? Let's get into it. So we leave off, remember, in 28 Years Later. Spike was rescued by this gang of Jimmy Savile-looking guys doing like Power Ranger flips and stuff, and my expression at the end of that film was like, what the fuck? Well, to be fair, still, but they flush it out a lot more. So we catch up pretty much right after that. They have Spike in like an abandoned swimming pool, and all of the Jimmys are surrounding him, and then we have our lead Jimmy, which we know as Sir Lord Jimmy Crystal. I'm just going to call him Sir Jimmy. It'll be way easier. All of the gang members are named Jimmy, so I'm not going to talk about each individual one, except for one in particular that comes into play later, who will go by a specific name. Anyway, Spike is basically told by Sir Jimmy, here's your opportunity. Yeah, we'll let you live if you join us. And if you join us, you have to kill one of our own in combat to prove that you're worthy or whatever. So, cool. That happens. The guy, it's a kid, right? Like, Spike's a young kid. Whether he's super trained or not on, like, taking out infected, humans are a bit different. Yeah, anyway. He gets kicked around for a little bit and eventually ends up stabbing this Jimmy in the thigh. And he's like, okay, like, ow, but you're still dead, kid. Anyway, it gets his, what is that artery called? Is it the femoral artery? There's, like, a main artery in your thigh. Well, anyway, he absolutely gets that, and, like, Kill Bill style blood starts flying out of his leg and he slowly dies, and there you go. So they take his wig off and they give it to Spike, and Spike is now officially a Jimmy. How exciting is that? Well, very is the answer. Anyway, we cut to a man who's hunting in the forest, trying to get some snackies, and he is attacked and ambushed by a bunch of infected, including the Alpha, who basically rips his head off and his spine out, basically predators him, and then sits down and cracks his skull open and starts eating the guy's brain. Cool. Delicious. That's fun. Then we cut to another trio who is in the woods. No, we don't. We have a scene where so Kelson, the doctor from 28 Years Later, the first of the two movies, he found the body of the pregnant infected from the first movie, if you remember that. I guess it's a sequel, so I may as well say spoiler alert for 28 Years Later, not the Bone Temple, but whatever. Yeah, so there's a pregnant infected in that movie, and I was kind of wondering, like, wow, that's interesting. How does this pay off, or how is this going to pay off event? It doesn't at all. So anyway, Kelson finds the body and treats it, puts it in his machine meter and puts his bones in his bone temple, as he does. Again, I guess I should just say right now, like, you would have need to have seen the first in the two movie series, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So anyway, okay, now we cut to Samson, who sees this doctor and comes charging all mad, rage virusy, big ass Alpha, his gentleman sausage swinging nicely in the wind as he runs yet again. Jesus, what a visual. Anyway, Kelson tranks him essentially multiple times, and he calms down and pulls the tranks out of him and whatnot. And basically there's it's determined that he's deliberately visiting Kelson after that to get sedated, because there's another incident where he shows up and he's like holding like a deer's head, like as a gift he brought, which is interesting. And Kelson's like, in that situation, he's kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna trust you. Come here. And he walks up and he sedates him, and then they sit and they chill like bros getting, stoner bros. Cool. That's fun. Now we cut to another scene where there's a trio in the woods and they're trying to get back to their encampment or whatever. They're going like super slow and super quiet and all that. But alas, they see an infected it's like hobbling on a broken foot, but it doesn't care. It's infected. It's rage virus. It doesn't really feel pain or care about pain. So one of the members is like, I'll take care of this quietly. Goes up to it, stabs it, but I guess it moves out of the way. So instead of getting it in the head, he gets it in the shoulder. The thing screams or roars or hisses or whatever the infected noise is. It's kind of like I guess it's a scream, eh? Anyway, shit, that alerts others. They all start coming. The other two basically ditch their buddy because what can they do? He's fighting them off. He's doing okay, but one of them coughs blood on him and he instantly turns, and see him doing the whole blood puke thing and all that. And and then we cut to these two running up to like a gate with a lock on it. And they open the lock, go through, lock it up again, and then head to their little townhouse village thing that they have set up there or whatever. It's a pretty good settlement. It's got a fence around it, but we find out that the Jimmy gang is inside eating some grub. And after talking about Teletubbies and making one of them do a little Teletubby dance for whatever reason, they basically announce that, yeah, we're going to kill you when we're done eating. So obviously one of the settlers is not into that. So he throws a pot of boiling water onto them. But, that's... What he should have done is he should have just dumped it straight on, like, Sir Jimmy's head. Like, it's clear that he's the leader, right? So you take him down, the others are kind of, whatever. Anyway, he doesn't do that. He throws the water on all of them, which allows one of the settlers to escape, a pregnant woman. So she escapes. That's good. Great. Then we cut to back to Kelson, and he's with Samson again, and he's basically telling Samson that at this point, the drug that he's been administrating to him, like the sedative and all that, has a very high percentage of morphine. And that's essentially a supply that is in very low numbers. He doesn't have much left. And he's scoured basically every medical cabinet and hospital within like a 70-mile radius or something like that. And so essentially he gives them one last dose and they sit and chill. And nightfall comes and they're looking at the stars, and he looks at Samson and he's like, yeah, I mean, I don't want you to have to suffer any longer than you do. So basically he's prepared a needle full of like whatever he would need to perform euthanasia on Samson, basically putting him down peacefully, which is very kind of him. But he's a doctor, so he's like, I just wish you could like give me some kind of a sign of like consent that this is okay to do. Like, he's gonna do it anyway, but it would make him feel a little better. And then Samson says moon. And Kelson's like, did you just talk? Anyway, yeah, moon. Okay, well, we're not going to kill you now. This is an interesting development. So, anyway, then we cut back to the house. One moment, tea break. Very important. Oh, that's good. It's like crowberry Inuit tea. Very good. I think I had this on the... You don't care. Why am I telling you? Okay, so we cut back to the barn, and Jimmy he basically reveals that he worships some entity named Old Nick, which turns out to be Satan. But I don't know if Old Nick is like an actual term for Satan. I have no idea. I've never heard that one before, so I was confused until later they actually said the word Satan. But anyway, same person in this thing. So he talks directly to Old Nick. He says that he's essentially Old Nick's only son. So the Antichrist, basically, is what he's trying to portray himself as. So they're devil worshippers. That's what the Jimmies are. Which is kind of funny, considering, despite in this universe, they wouldn't have known that Jimmy Savile was a piece of shit. The indirect reference of the group of Savile wannabes being Satan worshippers is kind of funny and a little tongue-in-cheek. Anyway, that's neither here or there. So what is their charity? Their charitable, can't remember, I think they just call it a charitable act, which, if you don't know Jimmy Savile, before all the stuff came out, he was known for being a very charitable guy. He had a show where he'd help children, sort of like Make-A-Wish Foundation type stuff, basically. Meet celebrities or do special fun things or whatever. Anyway, so in this universe, since all that shit didn't come out, I guess they're using Jimmy's persona as someone that the public would trust, like, fully, which is clever. But again, a little tongue-in-cheek because of the backstory. But anyway, neither here nor there. Let's get back to what I'm actually trying to explain, which is the scene. So his charitable act is removal of the shirt, which essentially means skinning them alive. So he has 3 of the settlers chained up, and the 4th one, the pregnant girl that escaped, is in the rafters looking down on this. That's got to be fun for her. So they start doing their thing, and before they really get into it, he sends one of the Jimmies, who is referred to as Jimmy Ink. I'm just going to call her Ink because she's the only one that really is important to know by name. So he sends Ink on a mission to find the next, I guess, settlement to attack and fuck around with, kill and take their stuff or whatever it is he does. Anyway, while this is going on, Spike leaves the barn. He's not into seeing people get skinned alive and disemboweled, so he's throwing up outside. Anyway, while she's on her adventure scouting, she sees through the trees the Bone Temple, and she sees Kelson dancing with Samson. Samson's the alpha. I can't remember if I said that or not. Anyway, so she looks, and she's in a devil cult, right? So she's like, oh my god, is that... So because Kelson has iodine on himself, is it iodine or iodine? I don't remember. One's the element, one's the chemical. I think iodine is the chemical. It's like the disinfectant. So he coats his body in that, so he has kind of like an orangish, reddish, brownish color to him. And there's like fire, and it's night, and he's dancing with an alpha. Like, obviously this is probably the devil. So that's fun. Anyway, she comes back and sees Jimmy puking and like comforts him a little bit, like, oh man, like, you have to go in there, dude. This is what we do, like it or not. She is conflicted, you can tell, but I mean, she's kind of trapped. It's a cult that will kill you if you disobey, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I guess she's stuck, essentially, but she isn't as completely sold on everything, but she's still, whatever. Anyway, she's trying to help him out, and he says, you can't go in, and she's like, okay, well, we'll just stay out here, whatever. Anyway, they wander off a little bit so they don't have to hear, like, the situation and everything. Anyway, we go back to inside the thing, and 2 of the settlers have been skinned and are still alive, so that's lovely. One has not. Sir Jimmy approaches this one and says, okay, now's your opportunity to shine. You can become one of us, and we'll let you live. You have to pick one of us that you want to fight and you think you'll be able to kill. So he picks the one that was doing the Teletubby dance. She's like smaller and doesn't look overly impressive really, but we soon find out that was not the wisest choice. She absolutely shit kicks him and has him on the ground and is basically ready to... I don't know what she's going to do, because they say, what kind of charitable act do you want to do on him? And she's like, I want to remove his pants. So whether that means the same thing as removal of the shirt, or if it means that she just is gonna with him, I don't know. But we don't find out, because all of a sudden she stops talking and she's kind of like, and blood comes out of her mouth. Turns out, lady in the rafters there threw like a hook chain thing that smoked her and stabbed her in the back of the head, killing her. So obviously everyone's like, oh my god, kill her. In all the confusion, the guy that was about to get de-pantsed, I guess, grabs a propane tank and lights it and sets one of the Jimmies on fire, so he's ablaze, and then he's shot with an arrow by one of the Jimmies, and propane tank rolls and sets the 2 skinned people on fire. And I mean, I don't know how much pain more they can have than being skinned alive, but they're dead anyway now at this point when they're on fire and burning alive, so that's great. He's dead, he got the arrow. All the others make it out of the cabin in just enough time, and Sir Jimmy basically looks at Spike and says, well, I mean, he's been outside the whole time, so he's not participating. So he says, you go find her, bring her back to me. So Spike goes, and he does find her, and instead of killing her, he begs her to take him with her, because that's fucking horrible. I mean, fair enough. She is not sold, so she acts like, okay, maybe, and then hoofs him in the gut, just punches a window out of him or whatever, and bolts. He comes back and he tells Sir Jimmy basically that he had to kill her because she was fighting back and whatever. Jimmy's like, okay, well, why didn't you bring something back? Her head, her unborn child, you know, her arm, something that, so I know that you're not lying to me. Let me guess. You got her in the woods, somewhere that's going to be difficult to find. Spike nods. He's like, okay. So first of all, no. He essentially says to the group, like, I'm going to call on old Nick. We're going to figure out what his punishment is going to be. So, not looking good for old Spike. That's when Ink speaks up and says, or, you know what, I agree with you. We should ask old Nick, but how about we do it in person? And Sir Jimmy's kind of like, what? And she explains what she saw through the trees on her scouting mission. And Jimmy says some bullshit about knowing about the Golden Temporal and that there were ones in like Scotland and shit like that, and he's lying obviously, but he's convincing enough, I guess, as a cult leader. So they trek their way down there and they camp out and they're looking through binoculars, and Sir Jimmy is kind of convinced that this might actually be old Nick, aka Satan. So he goes down and approaches and talks to him and says basically flat, are you old Nick? He's like, no, I don't know any old Nicks. And he gives a little bit more detail. He's like, you think that I'm Satan? And Sir Jimmy is like, that's kind of what I was thinking. And they talk a little bit. And anyway, Sir Jimmy eventually is explained to that, like, the color of his skin is because of the iodine and the bone temple that he has with all the skulls and everything. It's more of like a graveyard or tribute than it is like some sacrificial evil lair, you know? So Sir Jimmy's a little bit disappointed. He says, okay, well, I'll tell you what. My gang up there in the hills, they think that you're Satan. So you're going to pretend that you are, and you're going to convince them that you are, or I'm going to kill you. Doesn't have a choice, so he says, okay. Sir Jimmy goes back and tells the group, all right, so tomorrow at sundown, or at first dark, we're going to go down, and he's going to grant us a meeting. Awesome. The next day, early in the morning, Spike goes to sneak off. One of the Jimmies wakes up and catches him and is pissed off because the guy that Spike killed to become a Jimmy was this guy's best buddy or something like that. So he wants, like, revenge. And he's about to kill Spike when Jimmy Ink shows up, and she basically takes him down and saves his ass and explains to Sir Jimmy later, a lot of Jimmies, I know, explains to Sir Jimmy that he was trying to escape because he was afraid of the meeting with old Nick, and he fought back and she had to kill him. Convincing enough, that's great. Now we cut to the day where Samson and Kelson are hanging out, and he's explaining to Kelson, like, you know, shit's going down tonight. I don't know how it's going to turn out, so I got to do what I got to do. He's been working on figuring out a combination of drugs based on his studies of Samson and his theories that the rage virus isn't strictly, like, it's psychological, a lot of it. And so he gives Samson a shit ton of pills and says, swallow these, and he does, and we'll see what happens, I guess. Anyway, let's cut to the meeting, the big grand finale of the movie. And boy, did he put on a convincing show. So they walk up, and it's like pitch black, but Kelson had put like lanterns and candles on all of these like spires of bones and everything. So it looks really, really freaking creepy. Like if this was the Devil's Lair, it would look like what you would think it probably would look like. It's pretty badass. So even Sir Jimmy is impressed. He's like, okay, this might actually be okay. Anyway, they walk into this area. There's like an upside down cross. There's like an altar and everything. And all of a sudden you hear the intro to Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden, which is great. Like the spoken word part where, it's the human number, the number of the beast, whatever. And then Kelson is like sneaking all creepy ass looking like he's a demon or something through the shadows and reveals himself and starts dancing to Number of the Beast. And it sounds stupid, but it's fucking cool. Not just because I love Iron Maiden, but like it's a good song. And then like this, I don't know. Anyway, at one part he even throws a torch down to a strategically placed circle of fire, ignites around everyone, and all of them are super pumped, like, oh my god, this is actually old Nick, this is great. And at one point, Kelson blows some hallucinogenic dust into all of their faces, including King Jimmy, or Sir Jimmy, or whatever the fuck his name is. Finishes his little act of Number of the Beast, and then calls on them and basically says, kneel. And they all kneel. He's like, no, not you, my son. You don't have to kneel. And so Sir Jimmy does not kneel. Good. He's playing along, so he knows the assignment, Jimmy's thinking. He says, oh, master, father, what are your orders? And he says, basically, order number one, in as simple words as possible, is continue what you're doing. And Jimmy's like, Sir Jimmy explains what they've been doing. He's like, so you want us to keep doing that? I guess playing with him a little bit, because he knows he's not Satan, so obviously the things that they're doing are not something a human would support. Anyway, he says, yes. Okay, Father, we will continue. What is your second rule, or your second order? And he basically says, for all of your crew to obey you to a fault. And so Sir Jimmy's all really kind of pumped. He's like, okay, this guy, maybe I won't kill him. This is going to work out. Okay, you hear that, guys? You guys, listen to me. You heard it from the devil himself. So that's great. And what's your third order and final order? And he says, grow your numbers. And so up until this point, I don't remember if I mentioned it or not, but he refers to them as the fingers, essentially. And he says, okay, so we go from 7 fingers to a fist, to 2 fists, to 5 fists, etc., etc. He's super excited, like, great, this is fantastic. One moment, more tea before I'd rather do this than have a coughing fit, because I'm still sick, yes. Okay, cool. That's great. And they're about to take their leave. Sir Jimmy bows, says, thank you, Father. We'll make sure that your orders are, done and whatnot. But then Kelson recognizes Spike through the mask. And he says, wait. Sir Jimmy stops and looks at him like, what are you doing? He takes the mask off Spike just to confirm. He's like, I do have a fourth command, or fourth demand or order or whatever. And Sir Jimmy's like, are you sure? No, you don't. Should only be 3. He's like, no. I have 4. I'm your father. I'm your God. You listen to me. He's like, okay, well, you can tell in his eyes, he's like, don't fuck this up. But anyway, he says, you know how, do you remember the church that you were brought up in? He says, yes. He's like, then you remember Christ and how he was God's only son. And in order for him to take his place at his father's side in heaven, he had to be crucified. Sir Jimmy's like, yes, I'm aware of that story. Well, I need the same thing. I demand a sacrifice as well. Okay. Sir Jimmy's like, okay, so who do you expect to crucify me then? And Kelson just calmly looks beyond him and says, them. His followers, very frickin' clever. And it almost works too. Because the first one is Ink. Ink flinches, and Sir Jimmy has his knife out. He's like, I know you've been wanting to stick it to me, but no, hang tight. You really think this gangly old fuck is the devil? They're looking at him like, where are you going? He's like, if he was the devil, could I do this? And then he quickly stabs him in the gut. And Kelson falls and holds his new knife injury. And even one of the Jimmys is like, what the fuck is going on? Who's the devil? And Sir Jimmy goes, I am. Okay, cool. Spike runs over to Kelson, obviously, to see that he's going to be okay, and he's not, obviously. But anyway, Ink starts heading towards Sir Jimmy, and there are 2 loyal Jimmys left, and each of them tries to stop her one-on-one for whatever reason and are taken down. And shit, I thought I could go a whole review without coughing. I'm sorry. Anyway, she's about to square off with him when all of a sudden you hear shink, and Spike has stabbed Sir Jimmy. Sir Jimmy looks down, he's like, and then Ink socks him and knocks him the fuck out. And they go back to Kelson, and they're like, you know this guy? And yeah, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Spike says sorry, and, you know, it's not your fault. Why didn't you just let them take me? And Kelson's like, you've suffered enough, man. Like, if you remember the whole first movie, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, so that's great. He is left, essentially. The two of them head out, and Ink introduces herself as Kelly. So now they're actually going by Spike and Kelly, first name basis. Beautiful, right? And then we see Sir Jimmy upside down, crucified on the cross, and he's even saying, like, Father, Father, why have you forsaken me? Which is like right out of the Bible, pretty much. So a little tongue-in-cheek, but I like it. It's very, very well done. And coming through the darkness, you see this massive lumbering form with horns. The devil, crazy. Well, turns out it's Samson, but because Sir Jimmy is still all hopped up on goofballs. Oh man, I've always wanted to say that. It looks like Satan to him. And Samson just walks up to Kelson, sees him lying there, and speaks his name. He says, Kelson, thank you. And Kelson's like, oh my god. And dies shortly after, but he got to see that he legitimately cured an infected, which is, that's crazy, right? Like, not just like partially, like his eyes are normal and everything. So what does that entail? That's pretty intense. Anyway, he picks up Kelson's body and walks off, and Sir Jimmy is still thinking he's literally Satan. He's like, Father, Father. Anyway, end scene. Delightful. And then our little pre-credit stinger, we see Jim from 28 Days Later. Cillian Murphy is back very briefly as Jim. Where are the other two that were with him? We don't know, but he has a daughter now. So we can assume that happened. Maybe they're dead, maybe they're out somewhere. Anyway, regardless, Jim's back. That's awesome. And he's teaching her like schoolwork and stuff, and he's trying to give her a normal life. Even they're talking about exams and stuff. So obviously he's teaching her about like World War II and stuff, talking about Churchill. And anyway, they go outside and they look and they see two people running, and there are a bunch of infected chasing them. And lo and behold, it's Spike and Kelly. And the little girl says, Dad, are we going to help them? And he basically says, yeah. And he's got a rifle and whatnot, and then it cuts out, and that's the end. So Jim has survived up until this point. Very cool. Now for the non-spoiler part. What did I think of the film? Well, better than 28 Years Later. I have very mixed feelings on that film. It's a very weird film. But this one made it make sense. And for a while I was thinking maybe I gave 28 Years Later too good of a rating. But now after seeing this, it bumps up how good that first one was to justify the rating that I gave it, I think. I don't remember what I rated it, to be honest, but it doesn't matter. This one was a bit better, though. It was more of a film, like an actual movie, and less artsy. They didn't have any of those scenes of like medieval stuff going on that was in the first one. One thing that I really thought was cool, I don't count this as a spoiler, so I'm going to say it, is there are a couple of times where you see what the infected sees, and the faces of the people they're attacking are distorted and demonic and shit. So like, yeah, that was a cool little thing to see for the first time ever. The whole dynamic between Kelson and Samson, again without giving any details to avoid spoilers in this section, was cool. I liked it. Genuinely thought that was kind of a nice thing. Kelson's story in this one was a little bit more fleshed out, I think, than in the first one, which was also cool because he was one of the more interesting characters from that first one. And by first one, I mean third one. So the first years, but the third of the 28s. Whatever. Anyway, so that was good. All of the acting was quite interesting. The whole Jimmy Savile thing, I know I touched on this a little bit in the spoiler part, but I'm going to say it again. So for those who don't know, he is a UK television personality who was known, well, who is now known as being like a predator. Really icky kind of dude. But beforehand, he was known for charity and being like one of the most trustworthy faces on British TV. He had like charity shows where he helped kids meet their heroes and like go on adventures and do things and whatever that they wouldn't be. It's like Make-A-Wish Foundation kind of thing. He was on Top of the Pops hosting that for a while. Yeah, so when it came out into the world that he was a piece of shit, it was kind of like, oh wow, really? Okay. Now the interesting thing is, 28 days later, those events take place in real time the year it was released, which is 2002. And the whole stuff about Jimmy Savile didn't come out until, I think it was like 2011 or 2012 or 2013. Early 2010s it all came out. So in this universe, that shit never got out. So fragmented memories, I guess, of what they remember of Jimmy Savile being a trustworthy guy, and they're using that in their gang to like, that's kind of cool. And then there's a whole, yeah, you know, it's a satanic cult based on a piece of shit in real life, even though they didn't know it in that universe. You know, that's kind of a fun little thing. I liked that a lot more than like I said, when I finished watching 28 Years Later, like the first of these two, that ending, I was like, what the fuck is this? This is stupid. But man, it doesn't make way more sense after seeing this second film, The Bone Temple. So, my whole point on that spiel is, if you didn't like that part of the first film, and you didn't like the first film because of that, watch this film, and you'll probably like that movie suddenly, once you see it makes the first movie better. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, so that's fun. What did I not talk about? Acting's decent. Gore, it's good. It's pretty good. It's not ridiculously over the top, but like you get some good scenes. Yeah, again, I'm not going to say too much about the kind of gore that you see, but there is enough to keep you satisfied if you like those kind of things, I think. Unless you're like, want like the whole movie to just be a gore fest. But anyway, regardless, that's good. The pacing of the film is quite decent, actually. It's less all over the place than 28 Years Later, The Not Bone Temple. So that's great. And again, like I said, it improves that first installment of this two-part series or whatever. And then, of course, there's that ending thing, which I can't say anything about, but if you just watch the spoiler part, you'll know what I'm talking about, which I thought was great. And I want to see that continued on if they make another movie, although I don't know what they would call it. I guess, well, you're not going to do 28 decades later, because then everyone will be dead, basically, so I guess you do 28 years later, or something, whatever. Anyway, if they do another one, I'm excited to see where it goes now. Whereas after watching the first one, I was kind of like, okay, well, is this series dead? Like, I don't know. Anyway. If you got anything out of that, fantastic. I'm proud of you. Because I don't even know if I got anything out of that. But let us jump to the rating. 7.2. Yeah, 7.2. That's it. That's what we're giving her. Why? I don't know. It just feels like that. Out of 10, by the way. It's a 10 scale, so 7.2 out of 10. That's pretty decent, I think. I'm pretty happy with it. It might go up later, too, after I think about it more, but either way, that's my 7.2. Now I'm just talking about random shit out my ass, like no one wants to hear any of this, and I've made all my points I need to make, and now I'm just blabbering. So, we're gonna cut it out here. Yeah. That's it. Oh shit, should you see it? Yeah, of course you should see it. You should especially see it if you saw that first installment of 28 Years and didn't like it. This may change your mind. Yeah, that'll be it. Okay, bye-bye.